Morning, everybody.
Morning,
Hi,
Alan.
Alan.
Roger, is this your first time with us? And Paul?
Uh,
Possibly so.
no, it's not my first time.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yes, it's my first time here.
Well, welcome.
Hey.
Glad you're here. I hope you find this helpful. And Russell, as you're also an unfamiliar name to me. If this is your first time, welcome. And the purpose of this, as you know, is we have a round table, a discussion about the various ways that we do our post-stacking editing. It's a post-production discussion for macro photographers, people interested in that type of work. So normally it's Bud and I do this, but Bud's got family responsibilities this week and can't make it. So seeing as on Tuesday in a live stream, I talked about how to salvage not particularly good specimens and turn them into decent pictures. One of the things I discussed on Tuesday was how to use the tools that we have in Photoshop or whatever editor you're using to fix the problems with the bug if we can't do it with the subject, the specimen. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to look at one another's tricks and tips for doing this in a way that is easy and intuitive and handy to do quickly. That's the difference between Bud and I. Is my work is always time sensitive. I can't spend hours editing a picture because I've got a lot of other things I need to be doing, and I've got a lot of other pictures to edit. So I'm always looking for the best working option that I can do quickly and repeatably, and oftentimes in batches. So you're going to see that with what we're talking about today, because I found that there's really one primary tool for fixing broken or missing parts in insects. And I've learned how to use that tool and all the little tricks that go with it. And it's the first thing I reach for. Several people have urged me to switch to using the intelligent tools in Photoshop, like the what is it, the healing brush, the AI healing brush. And I have tried every time it's suggested to me, I try it, but I find that the tools that are purportedly intelligent do a lot of things that I really don't want them to do. And it takes away my ability to quickly and accurately get the job done. So I won't be talking about those tools. I won't be talking about content-aware fill, though I hope that you will. I want to hear what you guys are doing. I'm going to mostly focus on the most flexible tool, I think, in Photoshop, which is the clone stamp tool, and how it can be used with considerably more finesse than when I first started using it. It's always been a handy tool, but there are some tricks to making it a really powerful tool in Photoshop. So I've got a couple of pictures that I'll go through. I'll show you what I do, and then we'll open it up to looking at what you do. So if you have a picture that you can be fishing out in the meantime that you want to use to demonstrate your technique, that would be great. Before we start, any comments or questions? Klaus, are you down at in Tahiti again? Or is that a fake Tahiti?
No, that's just the background. I'm in Redmond.
I was getting jealous there for a minute. Alan, before I forget, I have two of your books that I have read and am sending back to you. I need to get your address, though, if you could possibly put it in chat. They were your books, right?
What books? I don't recall.
They're upstairs in the box. It was they're older books. They were of historic interest. It was a butterfly book. It might be George's, actually.
It could
I thought
be.
you handed it to me at the restaurant during the picnic.
I don't think I brought books to the restaurant. You brought my books that I had
Mhm.
left at the picnic to it.
Okay, I'll get in touch with you offline then, and we'll see. I could have sworn it was you. It's probably George then. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll share my screen. I've got a couple of pictures that I picked out that actually didn't need anything done, but we'll just pretend. Let me see. So surprisingly, the first thing that pops up is a weevil. I don't know how one of those slipped into my photography, but let's see. Got a little fly there. Any one of these would do for what I'm trying to show. We'll start with a light background though. So the clone stamp tool, first of all, when you open up Photoshop, if you import a picture from Lightroom, whatever you do, you need to copy it. If you're absolutely new to this process, that needs to be your first step always. And Command J on a Mac and whatever it is on a Windows computer will make a copy of it, and then you can work on the copy. That's just so you don't lose the original picture if you do something destructive to it. So let's assume that we have a missing appendage. No, let's not assume. Let's make a missing appendage. We'll chop this one off.
Alan, could you make the image slightly bigger, your Photoshop page,
Can do.
so we can see it?
Is that better?
No, I meant the whole thing. At the moment, we're seeing about 3/4 of the screen as your
Oh
photo.
yeah. I've got you. That better?
Much better, thank you.
That's my whole screen there. All right, good. So we'll get rid of this. So we're missing an appendage, and we want to add back the left rear appendage, and we don't have anything to work with. So if I was using the clone stamp tool to replace an image, to replace an insect part, I would look at the image that I have and decide what would be the best piece to use that would be convincing to me, at least, that leg was there. And it's usually going to be the mirrored appendage or structure on the other side. So it would probably be this leg, and I'd probably have it coming out from underneath this part of the femur here on the other insect. So there are several tools I would want to use to do that and to try to make it fairly believable. And I'll run through very quickly the tools in the clone stamp set that I would use to move that limb. So for those of you who are brand new, I use the bracket keys to change the size of my clone stamp tool. The shortcut to the clone stamp tool is S. If you hit S on your keyboard, that opens the clone stamp. The general theory, the basic theory, is that you position your cursor over the source that you wish to clone and hit the Option key. What's that? The Alt key on a Windows. By hitting the Option key, it'll turn it into a target. Click on the part that you want to move, and now it is cloned. It's being held by the brush. And if I now use the brush, it will paint in a copy of the thing I'm moving. And you'll notice as I paint it in, there will be an X appears where the origin is. In other words, that this cursor on the left will move with my brush. And if I go back over the subject, you'll see it repeats it. Now, there are several things that we can do to modify the clone source and change it for when we paint in the results. Blend modes are probably one that I use more than most. There are only two that really pertain to this. One is a lighten mode and one is a darken mode, and that simply means your clone origin, let's clone this again by hitting the Option key, picking up another piece. If I am in the lighten mode, say, they're the two that you'll use, lighten and darken. What I've painted in is only going to appear if it is lightening the place I'm putting it. So if I try to paint it over here, the background is lighter than the Weevil, so it'll paint the blue in just fine. It's painting the leg in too, because that is overall lighter than the part of the bug I'm choosing. If you use the darken mode, that will paint in only when the thing you're painting is darker than what you're painting it on. So we'll do that. You know what I need to do is turn off my background layer so that you can actually see what happens when I do that. So we've now got this piece of leg, and this is much lighter. And if I'm in the, if I try to paint this on, that leg is not going to lighten this green part. So when I paint it on, nothing happens. But if I go over here onto the dark part, well, go back to where I'm over the leg, and I can paint it in over the darker part. That's what the lighten and darken mode do. It allows you to clone stuff into an area that's lighter or darker than what you're working on in a way that doesn't put the origin material over something you don't want cloned. All right, a couple of shortcuts that I find incredibly helpful. Let me change my mode back to normal. Always be sure that when you're using the clone stamp tool, you can change the brush just like any other brush, but make sure that you're on current or below. That won't really affect you on this one because we are on that layer. But if I was trying to do my clone stamping on a separate layer, an empty layer, so that I could change it later, and I have that set to current layer, then when I clone my leg, nothing's happening. It's not picking up any leg. That's because it's on a deeper layer. And yeah, that's not very helpful to me. So I leave that on current and below. All layers will work. The other shortcuts, just a couple. This panel, which is the real meat of the program, this is the clone source panel, can be opened from the window menu, which is on my other computer. But if you click window, go down the list alphabetical till you get to clone source, and you click it, this window opens. This is where all the magic happens, and I'm going to really quickly run through what all these things do. All they are designed to do is change the source material that you pick from the subject, like this. So now I've got the source here. These will allow me to change how that source appears when I paint it in. The most useful one the most useful ones for me are the horizontal mirror tool. If I click on that, look what happens. The leg is now mirrored with the hairy side turned around, which is incredibly useful if I'm trying to copy a nice sharp edge from one appendage to the one that's adjacent to it, but facing the other way. So a left leg to a right leg. The other one, of course, is the vertical tool, and you can use them both together, but the vertical tool will invert the selection up and down like this. Very, very, very handy in many retouch jobs. I'll use this a lot for repairing problems. Now, these things are even more powerful than this. By the way, if you make any changes in this box and you want to revert back to the way it was, you click this button and that sets everything to 0. This, it allows you to change the width or the height of your cloned source material Usually they're linked. So if I want to, for example, I'm going to clone stamp this foot, but I want it to be, I'm going to paint it back into the foreground. I want it to be bigger in width, maybe at 1.5 times the size, and it'll also make it 1.5 times the width. So if I paint it in, it'll be bigger in all those dimensions. See, 1.5 times the size. But say, because of, I wanted to change the perspective a bit to make you think the foot was rotated, I might unlink these and drop the one of them back to, hang on, it didn't do it. One of them back to 100. Why is it not doing that? Oh, yeah, you can't do any of these things on a blank layer. You, if you're doing these resizing jobs, if you're trying to do anything fancy in the clone stamp tool, make sure you're on a layer with the pixels on it. So we'll switch back to layer 1, and that will then allow me to manipulate. No, it won't, but maybe you've got to have something selected. Let's see. All right. What have I done wrong, guys? Oh, that's what I've done wrong. I didn't go back to normal blend mode after showing you that. That should take care of it. Yeah. Okay, that's more normal. All right, so that is now working. Okay, so I can change by when these are linked, they will both change together, obviously. When they're unlinked, I can make my cloned piece wider or taller, but not the opposite. So I've just made it twice as wide, but keeping it the same height. If I clone the foot and bring it down here, it'll be twice the width, but the same height. And that gives you the feeling that the perspective has changed. And what you really want to do if you're replacing a missing leg is you want the other leg to look different. You want it to look like it would look if it was there, maybe further back if the thing is walking. So you'd want it to be a bit smaller. There are a few very, very handy tools that you would want to use if you're doing this kind of more advanced clone stamping. Let me show you. I'll reset that. This angle allows me to change, if I don't want just 90 degrees or a mirror swap, I can change the angle of my painted in piece. That's what it would normally be like. But if that's not fitting, if I wanted to put it over this, for example, I'd want it rotated a little bit. If you grab that angle and click on it and pull it right or push it left, it will change clockwise to the right and counterclockwise to the left. So now when I paint the same piece of leg in, it's rotated 12.1 degrees to the right, which means I could finesse it and lay it right over here and you wouldn't be able to see the difference. So this is very, very handy. If I'm replacing a limb that's in the foreground, no, if I'm moving a limb from the foreground into the background, I want it to be a bit smaller because that will look more natural. You can change the scale of your subject using a couple of keyboard shortcuts. And they're pretty simple. All you need to remember is that you hold the Shift key with the Option key as you're resizing. I'll show you. So let's again grab this piece of leg and let's undo those changes so we're back to normal. Now this is the leg the way it's being cloned, but if I want it to be smaller, all I have to do is hit the Shift and Option key. We'll pick it up again. I'm going to talk about where the source moves with my paintbrush in just a second, but let's just get a fresh piece and we'll pick it over here. To make it smaller, you hit the Shift Option key and then use the brackets. hang on a sec. No, it's the arrows. Let me go back just a second. I can get these confused. The Shift Option key and the pointers, the arrows on the bottom right of your keyboard will just nudge the part left or right, up or down, and you can see if I hold the key down, it moves it not very much. The two arrows over the comma and the period on the keyboard, when you hold down Shift Option, if you press right, it rotates it to the right. But you can actually see the overlay. Let me make my brush bigger. Use the brackets to make the brush bigger. We'll pick up the same legs with an Option click, and then we'll bring it over here. Now holding Shift and Option, and then the big greater than or lesser than arrows will rotate the subject. This is one of my favorite gadgets in the clone stamp tool, because I can actually see in real time that I'm getting it lined up the way I want it. And if I was putting it up there, for example, Shift Option and then the greater than sign will rotate it clockwise. And then if, say, I got it there and I wanted to offset it just a little bit, I would use those arrow keys, bottom right-hand corner of the keyboard, to just nudge it right, maybe down a bit, a little bit left. This allows you to really nail the positioning of your part. There's one other one that it's the scale, the scaling button. That's the brackets, and it's the curly brackets. So if you pick up a piece of the leg here, hold down the Shift and Option key and use the curly brackets, I'll hold it down. See how it's getting bigger and bigger? So if I was moving this to the back to make it more blend in with the back part of the insect, I'd hold down the left curly bracket key until the leg was believably a little bit smaller. And this really is, it's all very subtle, but it makes a huge difference. And you can do all of that without having to mess around in this box. Last thing I'd say that's important to know is this button up here, this aligned button. Every now and again, if I'm doing hair, if I've replaced a part of a spider and I want realistic hair, it's usually best to just keep moving your clone source. So I go to the hairy bit that I wanted to move. Let me reset everything up here. So I'd go to what I wanted to move, I'd Option click on it, and then I would want to paint it and then get another piece of hair and line it up and paint it again. And this is a pain if you have to keep going back to get another piece of the same part of the spider. By unclicking the Align tool, it allows you to take a specimen to right here, and then when I release the button on my mouse or take my finger off the trackpad and go to another place, watch what happens to the arrow on the left. It's right where it started. It's not moving. It's letting me paint over and over again from the same clone source. This is a huge time saver, and the cursor always goes back to the original origin. Don't forget to turn that back on. You won't use that feature very often, but if you forget you've turned it off, it'll really mess you up. Oh, Amy, yes. Sorry, didn't see your hand.
All right, so my question is, once you have the part isolated on layer 2, couldn't you just turn that into a smart object to be able to resize and adjust?
Yeah, you could, but I am all about the simplest, fastest way, and I'm already in the clone stamp tool, and usually I'm not too worried. I'm really not very good about separating my layers Oftentimes for a simple job, I'll do everything on that first layer. I know I shouldn't, but for me to go in there, make a smart object, and then go through all the other machinations to change the size and everything is just slower than resizing the clone source right there and then. For me, it's just convenience. I was never taught Photoshop. I learned it on my own and picked up loads of bad habits, but they work for me, and that's basically why I do it this way. I hear what you're saying, but one of the beauties about Photoshop is there are 50 ways to do everything, and as we see when we work with Bud, I mean, he's got some really complicated ways of doing some very sophisticated things that I can't do, but I can do 97% of it without having to do all the other stuff, and that's much quicker for me. So I'm sure that is not a satisfactory answer to your question, but you can certainly.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I think it's good to learn multiple different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I certainly do, and for me, if it is quick but gives a good result, that's always the one I'm going to pick. So if I wanted these claws, this foot's missing its claws, I will always, when I'm picking my origin, I always pick an anatomical site, one that I want to be on the area I'm painting it to. I want it to be in the right place, but also it gives me a point of reference. So when I pick up this piece of foot by clicking the target and move it down here, I know exactly what I'm trying to replicate. If I pick it up here, I have to guess where the halfway point is. But so I pick the origin where my painting will start. So I'll copy that, but I want it to be a bit smaller. So I will hit the Option Shift key and the curly brackets 2 or 3 times without having to do anything else to the layer. And then when I paint it in, it'll be a little bit smaller. And what I might do is paint all that hair in and then modify it so it looks a bit different from this. Maybe by if I did that and I'm thinking, no, that looks like an exact copy, it would be better if these claws were up about 10 degrees. I'll go back, I'll pick up the same source, and I'll go back to the same origin point, but now I'll hold down the Shift and Option key, and using the greater than sign, I'll rotate my clone source by about 10 degrees. And then when I paint it in, it will erase, it'll paint over the first time I did it, and I can finesse it like that to just get a new angle. I didn't really do very much. It would have been probably a little bit easier to just go up here. It changed it only 5 degrees. I'd want maybe, I don't know, 15 degrees. So I'd just slide that over there, and that will stay until I change it again. So if I went in, picked it up again, now it should be coming a little bit more up.
Alan,
Yes,
may I ask a question?
you may.
When I see you do that, my gut feeling would be to make the clone stamp tool bigger, grab the whole claw that you want to clone, and just adjust it as you want, roughly size, and paint it in, see if it looks good, then delete it and go back to a smaller clone stamp to paint it in.
I hear exactly what you're saying. I used to do it that way. I do it so much now that it's become an unnecessary step. I mean, very rarely do I put it in the target site and then change it. I'll usually make all my changes before I paint it in the first time, and I seldom go back and do it again. So it's just a step that would be omitted. But you absolutely could do that. And you know, there's all kinds of things you can do. To actually address this leg, you know, you can, for example, use a selection tool and create a mask so that you can paint in your cloned copy of the other leg without having to worry about it. But again, it's just quicker for me to look at it, think what I want. I want it to come out in the opposite direction, so I'll flip it. I might want it to be aimed down a little bit. Yeah, we'll say that. Probably aimed up a little bit would give me less work to do, but I'll aim it down a bit. So I'll turn it about 20 degrees to the right, and I want to make it smaller. So the scaling would be done with the scaling key, which is Shift Option and the curly brackets. Am I on a blank layer? I am. I'm on a blank layer. So see, it wouldn't let me do it because I'd gone up to that other layer. So I'll do that again. I'm going to flip it side to side, keep it the right way vertically, turn it 20 degrees to the right, and make it smaller with the Shift Option and the left curly bracket. Okay, now what I'll do is just like I said before, I'm going to grab a reference point, and in this case it is going to be where this leg emerges from underneath this part of the femur. So I'll grab it right there.
Could you share the app, Alan?
Share what?
We're getting you, not Photoshop at the moment.
Oh, did I stop sharing?
It's still working. You'll just need to check your settings, Nick.
All right.
You're looking at the wrong screen.
Yeah, Nick, if you change to gallery view, I think, or speaker view.
It's all right. I'm back on Alan Wall's screen. Sorry for that.
Not a worry, no problem. All right, so what I'll do is then, I'm not even in Photoshop, hang on. There we are. So S for the clone stamp again. Make sure I'm on the correct layer this time. Pick up the leg where I'm going to start it. And then come down here where I'm going to paint it in. And I have a pretty good idea and I haven't tried this, but all right, I'm picking up the upper leg. Don't want that, but I'll paint that out later. So I'll just roughly put in the leg where I think it needs to be, and because I have the alignment button pressed, it's my clone source is keeping up with me. It's putting the source right where it needs to be. So now I'll look at the leg. It goes straight down from here, but I've turned the angle a little bit, and see how I can, without pressing down, I can see where there is going to be something for me to paint in. And I just keep going wherever there is leg showing up. There's none, there's a bit here. And is there any down here? Yeah, this is where the rest of the leg comes. So it's really a powerful tool. And then the
Alan,
yeah.
in the clone source panel, I mean, there's a number of the boxes there with values in, but for the bit we're doing at the moment, the offset, does it allow you to actually change those values?
Oh yeah. The offset is you just grab the X or the Y, and what that does is it takes your clone source. Normally that would be, well, let me undo all of these changes. You option click to get your part, and you start painting it. Now, if I wanted this to move to the right, I would just move the X axis, and what that actually does is it moves the target. But when you release the key, it's actually your what you've done is you moved the arrow, in this case to the right by however many pixels. So or was it to the left? I pressed the left one. See, the offset is whatever I just set, and that remains until you replace it.
But could you also sort of play a bit with the numbers? You know, shift it by 10 pixels.
Yeah,
One
absolutely.
way or t'other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You just type it in.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe making a note of that would help at some points as well. You can
Same
then go
goes-
straight back to it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But these are very handy presets that if you're working on a particular job and you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again and having to reset your settings, this basically sets the parameters for your brush, your any angle changes, scale changes, alignment things. It'll take all of these settings and it will assign them to a preset button. So I just come back and press it again, and I know that's my preset for flipping a limb. If I had a centipede and I was moving all its legs to one side, I'd figure out what my parameters were going to be, put them all in separately, check it, and then assign a preset to it. I use these very rarely because typically for me it's one thing that I fix and then I move on to something else. Trying to think of any other key things that I use. So I really don't apply the presets very much. I don't use the offset very often because I'm doing it all under direct control.
Hey, Alan, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, on the clone source panel, and then you have the double arrows and it's a hamburger menu and it lists all the different sources. So does that keep track of your last 5 sources? And then you can go back to each one individually?
No, you have to assign them. Like if you make a change, if you just create a horizontal shift and with some angle, you can click on that and that will assign those settings to this button. So when you have to click on the button first and assign the changes, and that then makes that your it allows you to have 2 clone stamps, or actually 5 clone stamps, each set slightly differently in the tool while you're doing a complicated job, so you can go get the right clone stamp tool for that job.
So you would assign it and just kind of keep a note and say, well, I want the heel of the left leg at this joint. But isn't there another sort of place that does a if you click on something, I remember from a while ago that it gives you the coordinates, or is that just on the eyedropper tool?
No, well, it gives you the offset when you select a source, which we'll say right here. As soon as I move my brush, you're going to see the x-axis changes or the y-axis or both to tell me where I am. And you can, if you need to for any reason, you can access this point from your x and y coordinates.
Okay.
And that's how you know when you're using the offset, because you can nudge it either way. Again, I prefer the keyboard shortcut I told you about, which is Shift Option and then using the arrow keys. Look what it does to my offset as tap, 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 tap on the right arrow, changing my x-axis, left arrow the other way. I'm not an outspoken advocate of keyboard shortcuts in everything, but in this tool, it just makes it so much
because
faster.
they work with the other tools. They work with the paintbrush tool and all of that at the same
Absolutely.
time.
It's the same. It's the same shortcuts you use with the brush, definitely. Let me see. Is there anything else? Not really. You really wouldn't want to not show the overlay. That would just mean when you took your source, you can't see it, but it's there when you press the button. You just can't
Right.
see it. That's not very helpful to me. The blend modes, like I talked about, are that simply allow you to exclude lights or darks if that proves to be helpful, which it rarely does for me, but I can see how it could. The clipped, I think clipped is much the same as aligned. Oh no, clipped is the subject moves around, not your brush.
Oh,
That's crazy. I don't know.
is it just moving it around so you don't have to switch its position in
No,
the?
it's clipping it to your brush.
Oh, hmm.
There might be an easy way to get your source where you want it to see, and then you can go back to
Yeah,
uplift.
I
Yeah.
mean, it would drive me absolutely bonkers if it was moving around. That, in fact, it is driving me bonkers just looking at that now. So
I wish I knew about this before, because a lot of times when I'm trying to clone stamp a horizon in astro photo, you get the same star showing up, and it just
oh yeah.
yeah. So this would be a way of uh,
Getting rid of that source.
yeah, just kind of shift things or rotate them a little bit so that doesn't look like you're repeating the same stars.
I think
Well, yeah, don't tell Janice, okay?
Okay.
I think 9 times out of 10, even for a complicated job, I will use the keyboard shortcuts for rotate, scale, and flipping horizontally and vertically. It's about all I use. I don't really change the blend modes very much. And it is an incredibly powerful tool. A couple of basic rules: if you are doing clone stamping after you have created, say, a gradient, none of these have gradients. Well, this one does. No, it doesn't. But if you were had a gradient, well, this one does. It's a bit bluer to the edges. All right, that'll do. If you're trying to create a seamless clone, don't select a source that is far away, because when you bring it into where you're working, it's going to bring that background with it, and it can be really, you want it to be as subtle as possible. So I always recommend using as close a source as you can get and still be out of your own way so that the colors blend, and resampling almost every brush stroke. So I will click and pick up a new source every time so that it doesn't leave a trail.
But would it also work to not put your background gradient in until after you
Yeah. This would be when I didn't do that and didn't see the problem until later.
Yeah.
I think it's particularly useful in macro if you have artifact, say some halo, and you want to hide it. This is when I have to be very, very careful to sample the right color, the right. Oh yeah, that is another thing I want to tell you about shadows. I'll get to that in a second, but I would want to make sure that what I am moving in there is very close to where I'm putting it, so that
Alan, sorry.
yeah.
I was just going to suggest, Alan, would it be logical to do a select subject to isolate the background from your selection?
Yeah, I will often do that. It is more common. It's typically I won't do that unless I already have selected the subject for something else. But yeah, absolutely. Probably the Photoshop book would tell you to do that. But I'm just more likely to get my clone source, see that that's going to need to turn about 10 degrees, turn it, and I'm not blocking off the background or anything till it looks like it lines up, paint a bit, get a bit more, and I haven't masked anything off here. I'm just gonna keep changing that angle until it comes back in where I want it, like that. It's mostly by eye, but isolating this from the background would save me moving bits of the background for sure, but I just, generally speaking, don't need it. The thing I was going to say was this: if you move an appendage, see that blended in pretty well there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
Wow.
that ability to turn it just a bit, then a bit more, then a bit more, allows me to do all kinds of things that I otherwise couldn't. Let's say I was moving. Let me go. I just grabbed these at random, but I want to get one that's really going to show what I'm thinking about here. Be very careful if you were moving, say, yeah, this is good. This is good. If I was going to move this appendage over here for whatever reason, this one was missing or something, I might grab, let me reset everything. I want it to be a mirror image on the other side, so I'd flip it horizontally. It looks to me it's a tiny bit more vertical than this one. I'd probably give it about 10 degrees to the right. It's the same size. I wouldn't rescale it. I'd use my Option key, pick up the middle part this time and start it right there, and then start painting it in. Okay, this is cool. It's going exactly the way I wanted it to, and I'm getting this new leg from the other side. I'll go with a foot too. So everything's great, but you can see there is an absolute killer tell that, an experienced user will immediately recognize, and that is you've moved the shadows. You've moved the light part to the wrong side of the leg, and it sticks out. Well, it doesn't in this case, but oftentimes it'll stick out like a sore thumb that you've cloned it, because even though you've made some subtle changes, you've got the light in the wrong place. Several things you can do for this. It depends how important it is and how obvious it is, but I will sometimes actually use the clone stamp tool, seeing as that's what I've got open, and I will just pick up a piece of the sunlight, make sure it's absolutely aligned properly, and put my my bright stuff here, and then pick a piece of the darker stuff from up here and cover up my my mistake. And you can do that pretty easily, and really I'd blow it up pretty big, and I'd take my time. And there's another trick. That wasn't very well done, was it? But you get the idea. Take the darker part of the leg, and just once I've got the first piece in, I would just use that as my new clone source and move it down a bit. And a good trick is where the interface is between the light and the shadow. If you just mirror image that, then you can create a very believable bridge in the opposite direction. Well, the angle's all wonky there, but yeah, you see what I'm saying. By setting the angle correctly, you could take this and flip it 180 degrees, so your light and dark are on the other sides, and paint that in. It's all using exactly the same tools we've been talking about. But let me show you one of the things that I think a lot of people aren't aware of that is a lifesaver. You just stack this thing and you discover there's some horrible problem with the final image that you can't do anything about with the tools that you've got. Bring in one of your file image, one of your source images into Photoshop in another window, and you can, believe it or not, Option click on that image and paint it in to this image. Seldom do I need it, but when I do, it is one of the secret weapons of Photoshop, is being able to clone stamp from another document into this one. Particularly useful if you're using images that were shot on the same platform with same lighting, and you need something from a source image that you should have retouched but didn't notice. So it's a great trick to have. That pretty much covers most of the way I would use it. There are other quirky things about it, but
So Alan, if you say you slabbed your source in Xyrene, and you brought all your slabs into another document as layers, import them as layers, could you then source from one layer to another, so you don't have to have like 20 different documents open?
oh yeah. I could bring it in as a separate layer and turn it off, and just
Okay.
use that.
Or just bring in all your slabs into another window, so you can look through your different slab layers.
I would say that I pull in source material from another document about once a year. That's how rare it is for me to use that tool. So for me to complicate my layers window by having a bunch of other pictures that I probably wouldn't use, you absolutely could. And if that fits with your normal workflow, if that's the kind of thing you would normally do for other reasons, then by all means do it. The key point here is that your clone source can be almost anything.
Okay.
Anything in your open Photoshop program. And I love that, having that flexibility to do that. It's actually, if you're doing just quick and dirty compositing for, I do that kind of stuff for my videos and for the cover art sometimes. I'll just open the two pictures. I won't put them in the same document, but I'll just clone stamp the monkey's head or whatever, and bring it on over to the other document and paint it in. So it is quick and handy for that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's how I use it. What do you guys do? I mean, is this
I'm gonna be practicing
making
this
sense?
after. I'm gonna be practicing this after we're done here. But I have my toolbox already set up with a lot of the brush tools on it, so I wouldn't have to necessarily be looking at the keyboard, but I probably have to add another set of
It's
keys on there.
here's something that I do, and it's probably just because I can't type. Most of you, I'm sure, are brilliant typists. I buy these little packets of gold stars that they gave to all the other children in my class except me when I was a little boy, for being good. And they're not stars, actually. They're little plastic fake jewels. Here, I use one on my Wacom tablet. See it? They're sticky, and they come in really tiny sizes too. I take them and I stick them onto one of the reference key for the arrows, so that you can't see this, but my Wacom sits on top of my keyboard for my computer that I actually edit in. So my hand is underneath my Wacom when I'm working, and I can't see the keys. That's why I put those nodules on there, so I know where my arrows are and I can press them without having to look at it. And typists could do that anyway. But yeah, on my Option key, my Delete key, and several others, I know right where they are.
Yeah, that's what the toolbox is handy, because all the
Yeah,
things have a different feel to them. And
yeah. One day I'm waiting for an auction where I can get one for 7 cents or something. But yeah, I'll keep looking.
I used to only use it to change the brush size and opacity, but I've taken the step to learn more about it, and it does put a heads-up display on the screen, so you know kind of what's assigned to each button, so you don't have to.
Yeah, so does the Wacom, and I hate it because I don't know how I get it up there. Something I do with my fingers causes this radial menu to pop up.
Yeah, and why I can make it disappear if my mouse is over it. So
Yeah, Alan, the Wacom tablet, I think if you persist with those options, you might get some benefit out of them. But the circular one is likely in the settings, and it's a little bit deeper in them. But it's usually a key combination or something, or one of the command keys, option keys, something like that.
Yeah, I think why I trigger it by squeezing both of the little buttons on the stylus at the same time.
Right. Yeah, the sort of right click on the pen, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other one, where it gives you the sort of overlay, I think that's generally if you just hover your fingers over the palette buttons and give a slight touch.
Yeah, it's a very, very handy tool. I didn't used to use it very much, but my this particular subject today, I've been doing this with my finger on my laptop, but where the Wacom tablet is absolutely the coolest tool to have is when I'm using the clone stamp tool, because I can paint in almost individual pixels with, well, very light touch with the stylus.
Do you use the
I
pressure?
love it.
Do you use the pressure function? Of
I do.
yeah, I was using the Wacom and I had a hard time going between where my hand was on the Wacom tablet to the screen. So I switched to an XP pen, which is like a mirrored display. So the tablet has the window up on the computer screen on the tablet itself. So when I'm drawing with the pen, I can look right where my pen is, and it's like drawing on an iPad. Only it's a lot better than the iPad sidecar function.
What I did was I went into the settings of the Wacom and I changed the active area on the tablet from the whole tablet representing the screen to just about 2/3 of it. So to click on something in the bottom right, for example, a new layer in Photoshop means my stylus has to be almost off the pad on the bottom right hand corner, which is very uncomfortable for me because I'm using the tablet up in the air, raised. So I just shrunk my screen down and moved it to the left. So now everything is proportional. And
with the XP, it is an exact mirror of my regular computer display. So if I want to click on a new layer, it shows up right on the tablet. So it's
right on where, yes. I mean,
so it's a mirror.
The default setting for the Wacom is that it mirrors the size and shape of your Photoshop window. I just wanted it smaller than that because this is a huge tablet.
Yeah, but this way I could see on the tablet itself that
the picture is on the tablet.
The tablet shows the picture, so I'm looking right at the
okay,
where my pen is, and then I can look up at the bigger monitor and see how it's doing. But I could because trying to go between where my pen is and looking to the screen to match.
Yeah, I never ever look at the tablet. Once I get going, it's all. I'm looking at the screen.
Figure that out, but having the tablet lit up, I was able to pinpoint, and then using the toolbox to adjust the pen settings and the blending and such. That just, I don't touch the keyboard. It's just the pen and the toolbox and everything is,
There's probably ways I can do, like Nick's saying, I can do everything that I do just with gestures on the pad, but I'm so used to my left hand being on the keyboard when I edit that it's hard habit to break. The other thing is I don't like the tablet for hand gestures. It's not very accurate. So I also have my regular touchpad for my big computer right by the side of the Wacom. So I will, if I'm using the clone stamp tool I hold my pinky out like this. If I need to resize or anything, I use these two fingers on the trackpad without letting go of the pen. And then I can come back onto the screen, and it's much more accurate to resize, rotate, that type of thing with my fingertips on this than it is on the Wacom. So I use them
Yeah,
both.
except one of the things I have on the toolbox is I can just rotate the display either on the computer or on the tablet, so I can, you know, have a better, you know, resize,
Yeah,
rotate, you know, almost all the shortcuts you would have assigned in Photoshop, or a key or a combination of keys, and then I can also use it for my other programs. You just,
absolutely.
yeah,
You know,
so
I
it's
think
just,
the mistake that people make if they're new to you know, more advanced editing techniques is to recognize how handy it would be to have shortcuts and then sit down and try to memorize all the shortcuts. It just never worked for me. If I just add a shortcut at a time as I need it, then you know your muscle memory builds up that way, and you know, I now I know a lot of shortcuts because I added them just when I needed them.
yeah, that's what, you know, I had to do it too, just like switching between dodging and burning, you know, just, you know, push a button, dodge, push another button, burn, and it's, uh, and it
Yeah,
becomes,
what was the name of that original keyboard device, the button device that came out with all the assignable buttons that
There currently is, it's Paul. Sorry, John, for interrupting, but
No, it's okay, Paul.
Zenc Labs has
Oh,
a device that allows you to. There's 4 buttons here, 4 buttons here,
uh-huh.
and allows you to. It's an LED panel to assign shortcuts, and
Oh,
there's pictures. So I'm more of a picture person, but I can assign all my shortcuts, and I can scroll up and down and press there'll be the LCD screen or the LED screen
uh-huh.
shows you the what the function is, and
Can you
that's on
show
a
us
Zen.
what, can you show us how you might change a function using that?
I have to connect it to I'm not
Oh,
connected to my
oh, okay,
computer,
okay.
so it's that's why it's actually, you know, it says please connect to a computer.
Oh, got it. Okay. I
But
think it was Loop Deck was the one
yeah,
I was
Loops was,
thinking of that was
yeah,
much like that. It had a jog wheel on it, I think.
yeah, and
yeah,
Logitech just came out with their own version of like the loop deck, and it goes like 15 layers deep on the
Wow.
buttons, you know, so it does basically what the Toolbox does. It's just a little bit different. It's kind of a blend between the Toolbox and the loop deck.
Are you saying toolbox or
Toolbox,
toolbox?
Tourbox, one
Oh.
word.
What's yours called, Paul?
it's called Zen C, XenCelabs, Zen C Labs.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I've
also
ne-
the aspect ratio on the tablet is a
Mhm.
1-to-1, whereas the Wacom is 4-to-3. So when you draw a circle on this, it
Mhm.
comes up as a true circle.
Oh.
That's the other thing I have. You know, the
It- did that controller come with the pad?
yes, it did. Yeah,
Ah, okay.
it's also optional. Um,
So it's Zenc Labs
Labs, yeah,
has all of it
yeah. And
on their site.
for a big price, you can also buy this with a screen in it.
Okay.
So there's an actually, you have a monitor in here, and it's a touch tablet monitor with the pen.
Oh, that's like mine. That then, because I have the XP pen, which is like the you know, has the you know, it could be the monitor as well.
Yeah,
And
pricey, pricey toy.
yeah, the XP was a fairly inexpensive compared to the Wacom.
The Wacom's crazy expensive now.
Yeah, and this one, you know, I watched Blake Rudis, and he uses the XP, just a graphics tablet without the monitor in it, and it was like only $30. But you know, the display one was, I don't know, about was it very much, it was like maybe 200. I don't remember the price, but it
That's reasonably priced. That tablet, Paul. If I'm looking at the right one.
There's I got the medium sized one. So
Very interesting. Does anybody else use this? the Zen C?
No, but I just wanted to point out to Paul, if anyone gets mistaken, you can set the aspect ratio to maintain on a Wacom, so you can draw a circle. I always test it by drawing around a coin to make sure it comes out circular. To
Oh,
make
that's
sure
a
it's
clever idea.
Very good.
Alan, I don't know if you got enough time, but I was just setting my tablet up. The circular wheel of options, whether that would be something if I just try and run through.
Yes, yeah, by all means. You're talking about on the Wacom, right?
Yeah, just see if I can sort of quickly show where the options are and then
Yeah.
how those
Do you
work.
want to just run through do you have the medium-sized tablet?
Yes, I think it is.
Could you just run down the buttons and show us what you've got them assigned to? That would be helpful to me.
Yeah, sure. I'll just get
Does
Affinity
everybody
open.
know what what he's going to be describing is these buttons on well, they can be on the left or the right depending on how you set it up on your Wacom tablet. So if you have one, you can follow along top to bottom, Nick?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I've got the right way up.
They've
Keyboard's all
got
over the place at the
they've got
moment.
these little raised things that are like my buttons, only they're too small to feel. So they're tactile.
Yeah, I like the idea of the jewels because you go for the buttons and it's all right if it displays on the screen, but you invariably pick the wrong one.
Yeah, I certainly do.
Oh, here we go. Just got to do a quick settings on this.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else, while Nick's doing that, does anybody else use a different type of tablet or not use a tablet at all?
I was just going to say that the older Wacom tablets used to have a couple of finger slides controls on, so you could use it for zoom or brush size, which I found really useful. And I, rather like Alan, I find what Nick's about to show us, well, not the buttons. The buttons I do use, but the actual rotating thing in the middle with a horrible screen that you can select, a pain in the neck. Absolutely useful.
It is a pain in the neck, but I think I ascribe that to me just lacking familiarity with it. But all right, what have you got, Nick?
Give us a minute because changing
no
settings, it wants me to come out the meeting.
Oh, okay.
No.
This might take a minute, but hopefully not the rest of the half hour, right?
I'm gonna boot up the other computer so I can follow along.
So Alan, so you're using your trackpad from another Mac?
Yeah, I have two Macs on my desk. One is the Mac Studio, and it's maxed out, and I use that for editing. My laptop is it's choking to death with stuff on it, and the only thing I really use it for is live streaming and this. So normally I'd be editing on my Wacom is attached to the big computer, and that's where I use the other trackpad.
So that's the Magic trackpad?
It is. It is. I absolutely love that trackpad. It is. I think it's exactly the same size. Well, it's a bit taller, but exactly the same as the one in the MacBook Pro that I have. Very sensitive, very responsive, with a lovely haptic feedback click.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I never liked the Magic Mouse, so I got the Logitech mouse.
that Magic Mouse is just BS. I mean, you've got to plug it in to charge it, and the wire plugs into the bottom of it, for crying out loud.
This one, you have a wheel on it, and the buttons, so it's not like, am I far enough on the left, far enough on the right? So it.
The last time I bought a mouse, they had wheels that you could even tilt left and right to fine tune things, and you don't have that with the Magic Mouse.
Yeah. I only use the magic mouse if I have to, go back to the original stuff. If I have to reinitialize a computer.
I have one sitting around here, but I never use it. Never
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah, because like sometimes I had to reinstall my operating system and it doesn't recognize the Logitech, so I had to use the magic mouse
Yeah.
to set it up, and then went back to the Logitech and put the magic mouse back in storage.
By the way, this is probably worth showing while Nick's getting that ready to go. I found a cookbook holder at the thrift shop. It was made of aluminum, and I cut it up to make this,
Yeah.
Mm.
which actually sits on my desk, and my keyboard goes on those flat bits at the bottom, so that they're taking up minimal space, but the keyboard's underneath the Wacom. And I find this to be absolutely the best way to save space on my desk. But I discovered that using the Wacom with my pen kind of up here in the air is a lot more comfortable and intuitive than being flat on the desk.
Yeah. I got a laptop stand to put my tablet on for the same reason, because I was, hunched over to the desktop and I couldn't find it comfortable. So I brought it up so I can, be more natural, I guess, and then I could just push it out of the way.
Yeah, it's
I could
cool.
change the height and the angle, and I could just flatten it if I want it out of the way. So it's
Yeah, I'm not impressed with Wacom's user interface for setting it up. I think it's complicated and weird, and I don't quite understand. Every time I go into it, I have to read the instruction book again.
I'll agree with you on that one, Alan. It took me a little bit to get the things set up.
Right.
So let's do the first one, which is the buttons on the tablet. So this is the area, isn't it, on the left, Alan, that you were showing?
Yes.
And
exactly that.
If you rest your finger on it, it keeps it there for a bit, and then sort of long enough, and you'll see there's one of them's in orange. So at the moment, I've got the bottom one.
Yep.
And I appreciate what Julie you're saying. It's trying to, you don't want to be looking at it because you want to be doing stuff on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you get there.
You can turn, that's the express view that you can turn off, right?
Yes, I think you've got the choice of whether you do or not, whether it appears, because it can get in the way, obviously. But I'm keeping it for the moment. I think really because I'm still learning the tablet, as it were, the touch bit and that. But I think the jewels on it would help. Just
am I right in thinking
it.
all 8 of the buttons are programmable, right?
Yeah.
Yes, if you've got I've got the system preferences here. If I move the window, just in case my mouse cursor is a bit small, but you can see here all of them. Now, what's going on at the moment? These should be as set, because you've got. If I go back to the pad, you can see up the top there, for example, if I hover on the top button, it's open.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's corresponding with the keystroke. You can see down the bottom panel, if I select it, this is my photo editing, the affinity, and you can go really wild and start changing those. But obviously that means you've got to learn the buttons that you've then changed to,
right.
So that if you get used to it,
so that you can change the presets for an application, the application you're using it in.
Yes, yeah. Which is what I've done with the bit on screen. So let's see if I can. I think that should come up under the pen. I think it is. Oops. No, don't do that one.
So the interface, by selecting the piece of hardware, it'll open the options up for that piece of hardware, and you can assign all the buttons from there.
Yeah.
As the sensitivity and gestures and pressure,
Yep.
and
Just
even of the stylus, right?
yes. I think she's having a bit of a sulk at the moment because I've tried to dance around in the options too much. So let's see, while it's sorting itself out, if what I've done, I couldn't land on the setting exactly, but let's see. There we go. It's I think this is one of those where probably this is still.
Yeah, there was a time that it was very hard to get the new Mac to work with the Wacom, and then they fixed it in a software update.
I wonder if there we go. Yeah, because it's if I switch it off and then come back on again. Let's see if that does it. It may well be something else I found with the Sequoia update that
Yeah,
is doing it, but
there's been a lot of hassle with that, I think. Well, from for the sake of
yeah,
of keeping things on track, let me go ahead and tell us how you assign your buttons for ease of use. What are you using the 8 buttons on the Wacom for?
so the physical ones on the tablet I've left as is because the particularly the key assignments like the shift key, the alt come option key.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know it's only I haven't got to doing a lot of cloning in that yet, but I know I'm going to have to use those. So they're ones that I'm going to want to hold onto on the tablet because holding them down there with the left hand is akin to using the keyboard.
Yeah, which kind of
Yep.
Begs the question of if you've got a keyboard and you're using it for anything, why would you want to use both? Unless you could assign a single button to take the place of the shift option combination for resizing and rotating the clone source and stuff like that. That might be a bit more, but I wouldn't want to have to remember 2 sets of interfaces. What are you doing, Graham?
I've decided after playing with things, rather like the Buds software that he uses, to go back to basics and just try and learn the keyboard functions. Because if I show somebody else, they don't have what I have.
Yep.
And also, but the things I use my buttons for are things like go back and go forward. I can just flick between backwards and forwards with my right hands. I find it much quicker than trying to do Control Z or whatever. I just find that really useful. And also I have one for save to web. So it does the function, the Shift Control Alt S function, I think it is, for save to web as was. I just have that on one button. It's those sort of things that just get me out of trouble quickly.
That makes good sense. And when do you use the save to web function?
Well, what I was doing was very often, you do an image and then I'll do a smaller one to send to somebody, for example, at a smaller size. So I'll do a very quick resize and hit the save to web, and it strips out, as you know, a lot of the size out of the metadata and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just save it that way. It makes a very small file for email or sending where that might be an issue.
Yep.
I have presets set up for, or like a little action. So if I'm sending it to like my other photo club, I have to have it at a certain size and a certain resolution. So I just have a little action, boom, select all the images, run a batch, boom, done.
That's what I do with the export settings in Lightroom is I
Yeah.
set them, an export preset for everywhere I send pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, does anybody still use the old export as button on their in Photoshop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I use it every day because I have to save to different computers on the network, and I have
Uh-huh.
to save at very specific sizes for using pictures for cover art and what have you. And I found there's just nothing better than export as for accurately putting the picture where I want it in the format I need it.
Yeah, and also I could find out, how big if I bring it up to full quality,
Yeah.
how big the file going to be. If I'm limited to like a 10 meg
Exactly.
upload,
I usually it defaults to a quality level of 6.
yeah,
And I want mine at 7, but if 7 puts it at 2.1 megabytes, I can't use it on YouTube, so I have to knock it back to
Mhm.
6. So
yeah.
very, very handy tool.
I'd be interested to know if anybody who uses a Wacom with Windows platform has any problem with the pressure settings, because I have to put a text file I've learned over the years. Every time Photoshop updates, I have to put a text file in the preferences
Huh.
in order to bring that back function back. But I don't hear anyone mentioning it, so maybe everyone uses Macs over there.
I've used Macs mostly.
I use Macs, but I've never had a problem with the pressure settings. It's quite sensitive. Which Wacom uses, which nibs do you use? That's
Me?
an interesting.
I use the standard one. I tend to have a fairly light touch, but of course you can change the sensitivities.
Yeah, I like the harder ones, but they don't last very long, I've found.
I ought to tell you that I've used Wacom tablets for probably 10 years, and I've never changed a nib
Yeah, I've never changed one.
ever.
You've never changed a nib?
Never.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
I
very
change it all the
delicate.
time. I must have a very heavy hand.
You like power tools?
Yeah, really.
All
I
right.
mean, this one needs to be changed.
Sorry, gotcha.
Before I switched to my new Mac, I did experiment with the Wacom and Windows, and I was getting the changes that Graham alluded to there.
Oh. But
So that was one of the few things I could get it to work, but that just lasted a couple of weeks, and then I started the Mac, and I haven't experimented on the Mac yet.
well, let us know what you see. Let me show you why I changed my nibs.
Oh
They
yeah,
get
you've
the-
worn it down.
They get this angle at the tip, which makes them more responsive on one edge than the other. And when they get like this, I replace them.
Alan, so how do you hold a pencil? That's why. Do
How
like
do
an
you
artist.
hold it?
Artists hold their pencils differently.
La-di-da.
Yes, they do. Well, it's can you see this? So this is one of my needles. So
No, I don't. Your picture's
you're-
not on,
You don't
Diane.
have the video on, Di.
so
Oh,
this is how I hold my pencil. And if I'm also, because I had some broken fingers there for a while, but I didn't have a problem with signing things because of how it's all by the arm. It's not by the fingertips. So I'm not doing this,
uh-huh.
I'm doing the whole arm.
Well, when one
So,
of the
practice
one of
on the
the-
board and just pretend you're an artist.
one of the very common things that I use the stylus for is if I'm if I'm trying to apply an effect to an edge and I want it to be to look as natural as possible, I'll often use this move of lifting the pen and stroking it out as I go down the edge to put in clone stamped hairs or something like that. And
Mhm.
I tend to just hit the same spot on the stylus hundreds of times, and eventually within a couple of months it'll wear a flat spot on it, and it's always right underneath where the buttons are. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
actually
that's
had to
because they're
buy
making
new
you hold.
styluses.
Yeah, they make you hold the buttons at the same, or the thing at the same position. But I don't use the buttons on my stylus. So,
Well, I do by accident.
mm,
I just noticed that my nib is worn down like yours, Alan, so I'm going to have to change it.
you better start writing like an artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a difference if it does get worn down. It makes a difference to change to another one. It feels great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, can I show the toolbox setup screen?
Yeah,
All right, let me go ahead and share.
Nick, did Nick leave in disgust?
No, I'm still here, Alan. It's sending me, taking me around in circles. So I think Julie's is going to be more productive for us. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, so on this one, this is
Wow, look at this thing.
Yeah, so if I have it on the Photoshop, this tells me
Oh,
so so I have like increase and decrease brush size. I can flip them. So if I don't want to, if I want it to go one way or the other, combination buttons.
oh wow, that looks very intuitive.
Yeah, it is. And at first I was only using it to change the brush size and opacity because that's all I could remember. But now they have the heads up displays, which, let's see, I don't know if there's one up on the screen. Oh yeah, actually it's right here. Let me bring it over.
That device looks fairly ergonomic. Does that lump at the bottom hold your
yeah, your palm can
base
go
of your
right
hand?
into the bottom there. So, but without even looking at it, I could just do it all by touch.
Right.
Everything feels different. So when, I don't know if you could really see the heads up display that I got here. But what this layer here on the right of the screen will show what each setup will do. This is the setup on the left, and on the right is what they call the heads up display. So like these little buttons down here, if I here. Yeah, so all right, there we go. So if I change one of the
Where is the heads up display showing up?
I don't know if you could see it on the share or not.
No, I'm not seeing. I'm
I
seeing.
have the preset settings.
I see
Okay.
the green light on it, but
Yeah, so maybe it's not showing up on the share. Yeah, but
is it
it's
just a faint overlay screen
yeah,
like
it's right now.
with the
Yeah, it's
whack
the paint
on?
overlay, and then there's on the it has a spot healing brush tools. Yeah, so that shows. So if I change one of my modifier buttons, I could change what these buttons down here
Sure.
in the middle do. So I could have it like, you can have the clone stamp, or if I hit the top button, then it changes to fill or invert. If I hit a side button, then it changes to the crop or move. And like, changing the brush size, opacity. I could spin the image, make it more convenient to get, on the right side or left side. And then I could set up even non-Adobe things, like I have a planetarium program I use. So that it helps me just to quickly, search for a target or time and whatever. Like you could even go into like Zyrene, I have it set up just to see the source, zoom in, zoom out, move around.
Yeah, I've done the same.
Yeah, so it's just set up as a shortcut, and then opening and closing a stack, just have it preset to do that. And I upgraded to a Bluetooth model, so there's no cable anymore, but just have to change the batteries every now and then. And it's as I've gotten to actually start using it instead of just brush size,
Is it a Windows only device?
No, it's a Mac. I only use Mac.
Oh, okay.
So
Amy, you switched to this from you use it too, and you switched from a Wacom.
No,
I tried a Wacom years ago and I couldn't deal with it, but I switched the XP pen system. So the Toolbox doesn't care what program you're using.
Got it.
And
Got
then the
it.
XP pen is, I have XP pen came with its own little shortcut box, but I just use the Toolbox shortcut.
What about you, Amy? What are you doing with your combination?
so I'm on Windows. I use the toolbox, and it automatically detects, also which app you've got open at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can set it up and customize all the buttons however you want for each one. Or you can go, I believe you can also download preset ones too if you want to start from there. And I also have a Wacom tablet thingy that I just use for, makes it a lot easier for clone stamping or that kind of stuff. Because
Amy, sorry, Amy, to interrupt you, but where do you put the toolbox? And if you've got you using the Wacom and the keyboard, do you have it on the other side of the keyboard to the Wacom?
I only bring the Wacom out. It's just like a thing with a pen. I got the smaller one, actually I think it's the medium sized one. So if I'm going to need to do a lot of clone stamping or something like that, and I don't want to just use my mouse because that makes my hands sore, I'll just drag out the other thing, and then when I'm done, I just put it away.
Yeah, I hardly ever use the keyboard between the Toolbox and the tablet because all my keyboard shortcuts are on the Toolbox. But if I had to name a file, then I would have the keyboard in use. But I have the keyboard on a keyboard drawer underneath my desk, and then I just have the tablet and Toolbox on the desktop.
Yeah, so my Toolbox, I have a pretty small antique desk that I've got everything on here. But that's really small. I mean, it's like, I don't know, about 4 or 5 inches square, basically. So I've got that and my keyboard and mouse. So you can be working, right there, she's holding it in her hand. So you can work your Toolbox, like if you're right-handed, with your left hand, and then do your keyboard and mouse with your right hand. You can have all that going on at the same time.
We are almost out of time, or actually we are out of time. And I'm going to actually call it in just a minute because I've got somewhere I've got to be going. But I I did want to ask if anybody had not seen my microscope yet. I finally got a
haven't seen your
microscope.
microscope yet.
Oh, then
Did
you're
you get
going
it at
to.
home?
No, I didn't. I was going to try to get it yesterday, but they wouldn't let me pick it up without an appointment, and the next appointment was next Friday, so I won't have it until then. This was I won this in a government auction. Let me show it to you first. This is the microscope. It's a Nikon Diaphot. It's an inverted phase contrast microscope with 4 apochromatic Nikon objectives, and it works. And these things are selling anywhere from 6 to 8 grand on eBay if they're fully equipped. And I got this from the University of Iowa for $211.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I paid just about that for my little compound microscope.
Yeah, that's about what I paid for my Amscope stereoscope years ago. But this is, and now of course I don't know if when I get it, it's going to cost a fortune to get it working, or what I'm going to find. But it's in absolutely pristine shape. It's been used in the same university lab since it was bought new, and it's been periodically serviced. And
Can you point out where you would put your your attachment to put your camera on it? Would it go where the eyepieces are, or would it go up?
There are two camera ports. There's one here and there's one on the left side face. So I would put my camera right there, flush against that.
So it attaches actually to your camera.
Yep.
Would you need the adapter tube like I have for my
No, you
phone?
don't need a tube. This is set up for well, you're going to need because I'd be using a mirrorless camera. It's set up for a Nikon flange focal distance. It's a C mount, I think. But I've got the manual. I printed it off from Nikon last night, so it is very, very intuitive as far as taking pictures with it. There is a prism in there that flips to the light to either full or half for the camera. So
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
You're going to get to the saw to it, Alan, and chop the top off so you can use it for reflective light.
yeah, I'm going to figure out several things that I can do with it. I've already got some people I've been in touch with about it, but I'm going to motorize the focus system so that I can step with it, for one thing. I'm going to pretty much set this up. I mean, it's an inverted scope. Inverted scopes are designed for use with tissue cultures because you're dealing with wet mount, open top specimen containers. And seeing as I plan to use this for that, just exactly that kind of subject, I think it'll be okay. But I'm going to have to adapt some things to make it usable as a camera source.
So Alan, can we set up appointments to come visit you and bring all of, our setup slides and come play on your microscope?
Heck yeah. I mean, it's between Bud and I. Bud got this incredible Zeiss scope just recently, and yeah, this is the one I've been looking for a long time. One that was quality and affordable, and so long as it is either working or fixable, I'm a happy camper.
It looks like the rabbit hole that astrophotographers get into. Just another telescope, just another mount, just another
Well,
set.
the reason I didn't invest in an expensive microscope, which I could have saved up for and bought a nice quality standard compound microscope. The reason I didn't was I recognize I'm not going to use it a great deal. I'm a photographer. I'll use it for personal pleasure. But there are some projects that I have been wanting to do for 3 and 4 years now, like diatoms, preparing and shooting diatoms, which I know a lot of people are interested in. And this will allow me to do that, but it's at a cost of $200.
Yeah.
I would pay $200 to borrow somebody's microscope to do a series on diatoms. So this is a good deal for me.
So it's not necessarily for bugs.
Oh no. I mean, I am quite sure I'll find ways to zoom in and take interesting shots of structures, but. And let me say on that note that the competition closed on Thursday night, and I have only scanned the pictures. I have a special guest judge who has very kindly volunteered his services to view the pictures. It's a famous artist is going to be doing it. My friend Lonnie Stewart is going to judge the competition this afternoon with me. But looking at the pictures, there are some absolute crackers in this set. So I'm very excited about it. Intimate Insects is over. So the wild card competition has started. Is everybody going to submit something? You should. There's some prizes this month. Signed Lester Lefkowitz books, a complete set of X-Rite color calibration tools for your monitors, a lens. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep.
What do you
But we're
gonna do,
submitting
Graham?
in November or we're submitting in December?
November and December, everybody's allowed to submit 3 pictures. Anything you want.
So we got 60 days to get 3 pictures to you, roughly.
Graham? Another black Bic Biro ball?
Very tempting. I might go for a blue one this time.
You wouldn't have to change the title, though, would you? It would just be BBBB again. All
No,
right,
no,
guys.
it's clone it. I can just change the color of the ball.
Well, that was great. I'm glad we survived the weekend without Bud. He needs to come back next time, though. I can't keep
Oh, yeah,
this up
this
for long.
this was fabulous, Alan. Thank you.
Great.
Hey, Alan.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, you were looking for an L bracket with clearance, and I know you were returning your L bracket.
Yes.
I'm using. Not sure if you can see this. Not sure how
Hold it
to
up
switch
just a bit more.
this.
Yeah.
This allows me to get my hand. It's really rigid.
Who makes
and,
that?
It's Pro Media Gear.
Can you
Oh,
stop sharing, Alan?
my bad. I'm terribly sorry, guys. I
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. Okay.
sorry.
And this allows you to. There's allows you to go in and out. It's
Yeah.
extremely rigid, and I could put a heck of a lot of force, and it just doesn't twist.
We were talking about Pro Media Gear the other day. It's
Yeah.
a company I
Yeah.
wasn't familiar with, but they have a back-to-back double QR plate that Graham has a similar device he found and uses. But yeah, they make really quality stuff. They're expensive. That looks good though. So you
Yeah,
can
and
move
it's got
that
a-
handle out and get the 12 pin in there or the 10 pin in there and use it in portrait.
Yes. Yeah, and I use it for astrophotography. So it's when I tether it, I have to have a cable clearance.
Well, I have an L bracket on my camera and it does slide out. It's made by Sunaway Photo. But that's the L bracket. It was the cage that I got that wouldn't allow the 10 pin to fit into the socket.
By the way, the D850, which is half the price, will fit on the Z8.
Will it?
I had to wait for a year and a half till they designed this. So I had their previous D850. I've got D850 Astro modified, but I use the L bracket on the Z8 also.
Oh,
it
well,
doesn't quite fit totally, but it's close enough that it's a friction fit to that it doesn't
well,
move.
that's worth knowing. Anything that works on both cameras is a saving.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Anything else from anybody? That was fun.
No?
Yeah, learned a
Very
lot.
good, very good.
Okay.
Let me ask Nick. Nick, where did you get the Liberty statue posed like Marilyn Monroe? Where is that?
It goes back to about, I think, 2012, 2013, when that hurricane came through, and it was doing the rounds at work. It's a decent image, so it can, of course, be shared if people would like it.
I would love it. That is so clever. Whoever thought that. That looks like that statue in Chicago down on Wacker Drive. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
It was when Marilyn got a mention in your macro talk a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
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 But I was also conscious I might upset people because it's Liberty, but it seems to have gone down all right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's very humorous and very well done. Whoever photoshopped it did a great job.
Right, it should fit on Discord, so I'll do something about that in the next hour or two. All right.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Everybody have a great weekend. It was
All
good
right.
to see you all.
Take care. Thank you.
Learned a lot.
Great first
Thank
time.
you.
See you next week.
All right.